Hello everybody and welcome to another YouTube video. So in today's video, I'm going to show you how to web scrape and download images from the internet. Now what we'll actually be doing is going on Google Images, we'll be looking for a certain number of images, grabbing the source of all of those images, and then using the source of that image to download the image to our computer. There's a variety of reasons you may want to do this. The first that I could think of is you probably need testing or training data for some type of machine learning model, and maybe you want hundreds of thousands of images or you want a ton of different pieces of data. Obviously, it would not be efficient to go manually download those, so you could use a script like this. Now, of course, there's a ton of other reasons, and what I'm going to show you here will work for other websites. It's not only going to work for Google Images, but you will need to tweak the script slightly if you're going to apply it on a different site. Anyways, I just want to mention before we dive into the code here that there is some legal concerns with doing this. So if you're just doing, 10 or 20 images or something, you probably don't need to be concerned. But if you're running really large bots that are scraping like tens of thousands of images, you may get IP banned, you may have all kinds of things negatively occur to you. And in fact, if you want to potentially be able to avoid some of those issues with web scraping, you should check out the sponsor of this video. Before we get started, I need to thank Smart Proxy for sponsoring this video. Smart Proxy is a smart but down-to-earth tech head platform that helps clients solve data access and entrepreneurship problems. Oftentimes, you want to access or scrape data that is only accessible from a certain geographic location. Maybe you want to scrape and compare real estate prices, data mine e-commerce products, or acquire testing and training data for machine learning models. Well, if that's the case, Smart Proxy can help you do this. Smart Proxy lets you bypass country restrictions and website blocks by providing the highest quality residential proxies in over 195 locations. With over 40 million residential proxies, you can connect to your target source as many times as you need from any type of device. Smart Proxy also has advanced rotating proxies, so you never need to worry about IP bans. In addition, Smart Proxy provides a no-code smart scraper tool to perform data collection that you can use for no additional cost with a Smart Proxy subscription. Using the Smart Scraper is extremely simple. Just install the Chrome extension, open up a website, start the scraper, and select the items that you'd like to export. Check out Smart Proxy today from the link in the description to get access to the best proxies for web scraping, and use the code TechWithTim20 for 20% off residential and data center proxies. Thanks again to Smart Proxy for sponsoring this video. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. The first thing we need to do here is download and set up a few dependencies for this project. These are just Python libraries. So we are going to need Pillow, we are going to need Requests, and we are going to need Selenium. Now I'll discuss what all of those do in a second, but first let's just install them. So go to your command prompt or terminal if you're on Mac or Linux, and then you're going to type the following: pip install, and we'll start with Pillow. Now you actually want a capital P here, so pip install capital P Pillow. Now, if for some reason that command doesn't work for you, you can try doing pip3 install Pillow. So just tack a 3 on right here. And if that doesn't work for you, I will leave 2 links in the description on how to fix the pip command for your system, one for Mac and one for Windows. Okay, so now that we have Pillow, we're going to install Selenium. So we want Selenium like that. Notice that I already have all of these installed. This is going to install a bunch of stuff, but Selenium is actually going to allow us to automate our web browser so that we can go and click on all of the images that we want to download, get their source, and then, well, download the source of the image. Okay, so now that we have Selenium, the last thing that we want is requests like this. This is going to be used to actually grab the data of the image that we want to download. Notice I'm getting some error here saying Selenium 4.0 has requirement URL lib. You can just ignore that. This will be fine. In fact, it actually fixed that error for me right here, but everything should be good now. Okay, so now that we have that, we just need to install one thing that we need to use with Selenium. This is known as a web driver. So just go to the link in the description. I have it right here. It is called Chrome Driver. Now I'm going to be doing this tutorial using Google Chrome. I'm not going to show you how to do it with a different web browser, so just make sure you're using Chrome, otherwise this won't work. Anyways, go to this link, and then you want to click on one of these 2 versions, Chrome Driver 95 or 94. Now this is dependent on, the version of your Google Chrome. So I believe I have Google Chrome version 94. If you had version 95, then you would download 95. Anyways, you can just try both of them. If one of them doesn't work, you can download the other one. It's really easy to do this. So I'm going to go with 94. Again, I'll leave this link in the description, okay? And then what you want to do is click on your operating system. So I'm going to be Win32. Obviously, you have Mac and you have Linux. So Win32, it's going to download a zip folder for me. So let me download that. I'm going to open the zip folder. And inside of here, you will see that there is an executable. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut this executable and I'm going to paste this in a location that I know. So paste it pretty much anywhere on your computer so that I can use it and reference it from my Python script. So what I'm actually going to do is go to my desktop. I have a folder here called web scraping images. This is where the tutorial is going to be. I'm just going to paste the executable right inside of here. I know the path of this executable. It would be this right here. So I could just copy that path. And now I'm able to actually reference this executable. So just put it in a place where you are able to reference it. You know the path to it because we're going to need that path in 1 second. Okay, so now that the executable is installed, the steps will be a little bit different for Mac and Linux, but I trust you guys can figure that out. Just extract the zip folder, move the executable to a path where you know the location of. I can close this, and I can go back to my Python script, and I'm just going to start by putting in the path of this web driver. So I'm going to say path is equal to, and then this. Now, if you see something like this yellow highlight and kind of some errors here, you just need to escape these slashes. So you just put 2 slashes and then everything should be fine. All right, so let me just take a quick pause here and explain why we just did all of that. So when we use Selenium, this allows us to automate our browser, but we need a browser to automate. So we need to download the web driver for whatever browser we want to use. You could do this with Firefox, you could do this with Safari, but I want to use Google Chrome. So I downloaded the Chrome web driver, which now allows us to use that executable file to automate Chrome, okay? That's pretty much all we're doing here. So you just need this. You need to supply this to your actual, script for it to know where the executable is and then use that to automate the appropriate web browser. So I have this here. It's in web scraping images, but I need to put the name of the driver, which is chromedriver.exe. So I'm going to put that like that. Now I'm going to go up here and I'm going to import Selenium, okay? Now I'm just going to show you how this web driver works. So actually I'm going to say from Selenium, I'm going to say import WebDriver like that. And then I'm going to say WD, standing for WebDriver, is equal to Selenium dot, or actually I could just say WebDriver. And let me check here. I believe this is with, no, actually it's not with a capital. That's fine. And I'm going to say .chrome because we're using Google Chrome. And then I'm going to put the path right here to this executable file. Great. So now that we have that, what I can do is just run my code and let's see what happens here. Notice that we're getting this deprecation error. You don't need to worry about that right now. And you can see that it actually opens up a Google Chrome window because I just started my web driver. So hopefully that makes a bit of sense. Let me run this one more time. And you can see here in Google Chrome, it's saying Chrome is being controlled by automated test software. That would be Selenium. Okay, so we've got the first bit of setup done. Now that we've done that, I want to show you simply how we can download an image. So if we know the source of an image, downloading it is quite simple. So let me just go here to Google Chrome. All right, so you can see I'm in Google Chrome here. Notice that I was on images, some Google images, and I searched dogs. Now let's just do cats, and let's click on some cat, okay? Let's right click and click inspect, and then let's find the source of this image. This is the source right here, okay? src is equal to this. So this is actually the URL it's using to display this image, so src. So what I'm gonna do is paste this into a new tab, and now notice it gives me the actual image itself. That's great. That's exactly what we want. So if I just copy this here, I can put this inside of my script. I'll say image_URL is equal to this. And now I will show you how we can download this image. All right, so let's go ahead and write a function here that can download an image. So I'm going to say define download_image. And then inside of here, we are going to take the download path. We are going to take the URL, and we're going to take the file name of the image that we want to download. Now, before I go any further, I do want to give credit to someone that I've kind of taken a lot of code from. So there is this great blog post. I need to paste it inside of here so you guys can see it on Towards Data Science that says image scraping with Python. There's a ton of stuff in here. I kind of just extracted some of the code that we actually need for this tutorial and I modified it. But if you scroll down here, it has a whole section on scraping images from Google. So a lot of the code I'm going to write comes right from here. I've just kind of modified it and made it simpler. But I just wanted to give credit to him. I will leave this in the description in case you guys want to see the original source of a good amount of this code. Again, I've just modified it and made it a bit simpler because there was a ton of stuff in there that was kind of unnecessary for this tutorial. Regardless, let's continue here. So we have download image. We have the URL of the image we want to download, the path to download it to, and then the file name that we want to save the image as. So what I'm going to do here is just say that my image_content is equal to, and this is going to be requests.get. Now that means I need to import requests. So let's go up here, and say import request. Now this allows us to make an HTTP GET request to the URL. So we're going to say URL like that. And then we're going to say .content. And this will actually give me the content of the image, right? Because if we go to the URL where the cat is, this is, well, the image content. So now that we have the content of the image, I want to save the content of this image in a bytes.io file type, or in memory as bytes.io data type. So I'm going to say that my image underscore file is equal to IO. So I need to import IO like this, and then .bytes.io. And then inside of here, I'm just going to put image content. Now what this is going to do is kind of convert this content right here into a bytes.io data type. Now this is pretty much kind of like storing a file in memory. I won't really explain it much more than that, but we're storing pretty much the image file right here directly inside of memory. Now that we have that though, I need to actually convert this directly to an image so that I can save it. So right now we're just storing some binary data. That's essentially what bytes.io is. So I'm going to convert this now properly to an image using the pillow library and then save it. So I'm going to say from capital PIL import image like this. And then I'm going to go here and say that my image is equal to, and this is going to be image.open. And then inside of .open, we're just going to put the image file like this, which will be our bytes.io data type. So this allows us to actually load this in as an image. Now what I can do is actually save this image, but first I need to generate the file path. So I'm going to say the file path is equal to, and this is going to be the download path plus, and then this will be the file name. Okay, so that is our file path. Now I'm going to say with open, and this is going to be, I guess we want the file path, and this is going to be in WB mode, which stands for write bytes, meaning we can actually write an image. I'm going to say as F, and then I will say image.save. I'm going to save it to F, and I'm going to save it in a JPEG format. Okay, let me look at my code. I have some code on the right-hand side of my screen, or I guess to you guys that would be left, but it's my right. And just make sure this looks good. Everything looks good to me. And we can actually go ahead and run this function now and see if this works. So let's just print here success. Okay, so let me just run through what I did here because I understand this is a bit complicated. So first, we actually get the content of the image. This is pretty straightforward. We're sending a GET request to the URL of the image that we want. We then are saying the image file is equal to io.bytes.io image content. So we're taking the actual content from this request, and we're going to now store this as a binary data type in our computer's memory. This is very similar to storing an actual file in memory. We then are going to convert this binary data to a PIL image, so a pillow image. This just allows us to very easily save the image using image.save. Okay, that's the first step. We then generate the file path. So we take the download path plus the file name, combine those together. That will give us the path to save the file. And then we'll say, okay, we're going to open a brand new file that is at the file path. So with whatever the name is there in WB mode, which stands for write bytes. So we can write bytes to this file. We're going to load that as F. And then we're going to say image.save. We're going to save this image here to this file as a JPEG image and then print success. So let's try this. Let's call download image. Let's go with download path just being nothing. The reason why I'm going to put nothing is because I just want to download it in the current directory that I'm in. So if you want to do that, just don't put anything for the path and it will download it in the current directory. For the URL, I'm going to pass the image URL. And then for the file name, I'm just going to say test.jpg like that. Now make sure you add this as the extension, otherwise it will not work. Okay, so now that we have that, let's go ahead and run the code. So I'm going to run it like that. Let's give it a second to open up Chrome. Actually, didn't even need to do that because we're not even using the WebDriver. Notice it says success. And then if I go here to Sublime, you can see I have this test image and it's been downloaded to my computer. Great. There we go. Okay, so now we can download an image. I'm just going to throw in a try and accept here though, because sometimes this could fail. So I'm just going to say try, and then I'm going to say accept, and we'll say exception as E. And I'm just going to print failed, and then here we will print out E. The point of this is just so that if this fails, we can continue with the rest of our program. We don't actually get an exception. We just catch it and print it out. Okay, so now that we've done that, let's see how we can actually scrape a certain number of images from Google Images and then use the download image function to actually save the image. Now I'm just going to delete this images folder because this is what I was testing before. So let's delete that and let's make a new folder. So I'm going to go new folder like this. We're going to call it images. And now we can continue. Okay, so we can get rid of this image URL. We can actually get rid of the call to download image because we're not going to use that right now. Now we can say define, and we could say get images from Google or whatever you want to call it. Doesn't really matter. Now inside of here, we need to take in our WebDriver. So I'm going to take in WD for our Chrome WebDriver. We're also going to need a delay. And let me think if we need anything else. We're going to need a max images as well. So this is how many images we are going to download maximum, or how many images we are going to get maximum. Okay, so I'm going to hop over to Google Images here, and I'm just going to run through the basic process of what we need to do here to actually click on these images and then grab the image source and download them. So right now we see a bunch of images. We also see some images up here, okay, like kitten, whatever. We see all of these images up here as well. Now, when I click on the image, I actually get the legitimate image source. Whereas when I'm just looking at them here, this is just a thumbnail and it's kind of been resized. It's not the actual image that I want. And so what I would like to do is I would like to make it so that I click on these images and then I get the source of this image, the large one that's showing up, because that will be the real image. I don't want to just download the thumbnails. Otherwise, I'll get kind of the lower resolution images or just ones that are not the correct size. Hopefully you get what I mean. So that's kind of part one. That's what I want. I want to be able to click on these images. But then what's going to happen is as I continue to scroll down on this page, we're going to load more images. So notice how we get that kind of loading bar there. So I need to actually have something that allows me to scroll down as well, because if I want to download, say, 1,000 images, I'm going to have to scroll to the bottom of the page and then find all of the images. Now, eventually you'll get to a point where you can actually click on load more results, or it'll say you've reached the end. So you do need to consider there is some edge cases here. You might want to click a button that loads more results. I'm not going to show you how to do that, but that is something you may want to do. And anyways, that's kind of the first step. So the thumbnails, we want to click on the thumbnails, grab the image source, and then download the image from the source. However, I need a way of actually finding all of these thumbnails and clicking on them. So I need to find something that is similar between all of these images so I can look for something that represents all of these thumbnails images. Now, some of you may be saying, okay, well, why don't you just search for all of the image tags on the page? And if you're not familiar with Selenium, what you can do is you can search for class names, you can search for specific tags, you can search for text, you can search for all kinds of stuff within an actual HTML document. And so some of you may be saying, well, why don't you just look for all of the IMG tags, right? Because if I click on this and click inspect, notice this is IMG. Well, the reason I can't do that is because that's going to give me these images at the top of the screen as well. So instead, what I actually want to look for is a class name that all of these thumbnails are going to have in common. So if I go here, notice that we have a class name here, and I'll zoom in so you can see it, but it's Q4LUWD. So that's the class name of this first image. And if I inspect this second image right here, so let's inspect it and go to it. Notice down here, it has the same class name. So what I'm going to do is search for this class name, and any image that I find that has this class name, I will actually try to download. You'll notice if I go to this one here and I click inspect, for some reason I have to keep clicking it 2 times. This does not have that class name. And so I won't get those ones. I will only get the actual thumbnails. Okay, hopefully that makes sense, but let's start off by doing that. So I'm going to write a function here. Inside of this function, I'm just going to call this scroll down. And this is going to take in a WebDriver. And does it need anything else? I actually think that's all it needs, okay? Then what I'm going to do is say wd.execute script. Now, execute script means I can actually execute a JavaScript script. And so I'm just going to execute a command that scrolls me to the bottom of the screen. Now, I believe this is window.scroll, and this will be scroll2. And then we're going to put 0, and this will be document dot, and then body dot, and then what is it here? I believe it's scroll height. So we're just going to say scroll and height like that. Okay, why'd it give me that? I didn't want that. Okay, so scroll height, add our semicolon, and there we go. We now have the scroll down function. I will also add something here. I'm just going to say time.sleep delay, just so it gives me 1 second or whatever I make this delay to actually load the remainder of the images if I am scrolling down to the bottom of the screen. Okay, so now that I have that inside of here, I'm just going to paste a URL. Now this URL is going to be the URL of the Google Images page that I actually want to scrape. So what I'm going to do is just go to my browser tab here, and I'm just going to copy this huge URL, which is for the search of cats. If you want to search something else, just search it, copy the corresponding URL, and then just paste it inside of here. So there we go. We now have our URL. And now I'm going to use my WebDriver to actually get the source, the HTML source of this page. So I'm going to say, I guess, wd.get and then URL. This will actually load this page with my Chrome WebDriver. And then we can actually start looking through all of the images. So first, let's just actually run this function and see if this works. So I'm just going to go down here and I'm going to say get images from Google. So we need to pass to this a WebDriver, a delay, and max images. So I'm going to pass my WebDriver. I'm going to pass a delay of 2, so 2 seconds. And then I'm going to pass, what was the last one? I totally forgot. Max images is going to be 10. Okay, so let's run this and let's just see if it actually loads up this correct page. Notice it does, it brings me to the cats page. Awesome. Okay, so now that that is working, I'm just going to add something here that closes my WebDriver window, because you'll notice that if you run this a bunch of times and you forget to close the Chrome window, you'll have like 100 of them open. So I'm just going to say wd.quit, and this will just close the actual Chrome window once this function is done. Great. Okay, so let's continue here. I'm going to write a variable. This variable is going to be image_URLs. This is going to be equal to a set, just to make sure we don't have duplicate URLs here. We only have the same image one time. And then what I'm going to do is make a while loop. I'm going to say while the len of image URLs is less than, and then this will be the max images like this, then we will continue. So the point being, once we have as many as max images as we've defined here, then we will stop. All right, so now that we've done this, what I'm going to do inside of here is I'm going to start by scrolling to the bottom of the screen. Once I scroll to the bottom of the screen, then I'm going to find all of the image thumbnails on the screen. I'm then going to loop through all of them, try to click on them, and once I click on them, get the source of the image, and then continue. So I'm going to say scroll to end. We're going to pass our WebDriver. I am then going to say that my thumbnails is equal to, and this is going to be wd.findElements. And inside of here, I need to pass something that I need to import. So I'm going to say from selenium.webdriver.common.by import by. You'll see why we need this in 1 second, but just write this import line. Then here, I'm going to say by dot, and this is going to be in all capitals class name, and I'm going to put that class. So let's go back here and remember what that class was. That class was Q4LUWD. Again, I'll zoom in so you guys can see that, and let's paste that right here. So this is the class name that I'm looking for. This is going to give me any tags that contain this class name. If any of this Selenium stuff is confusing, again, I have an entire tutorial series on it, so I'll leave a link to that in the description. Anyways, what this is going to do is find all of the elements on the page that have a class name of this. That's why I needed to import by, so I could specify we're looking by the class name. Then what I can do is I can loop through all of the thumbnails and I can try to click on them. So I'm going to say for image in thumbnails like this. And actually what I'm going to do is go here and say the len of, and this is going to be image URLs, to the max images. Now, the reason why I'm doing this is because this while loop will continue to run until we've loaded and, well, got enough image URLs. So the point is, when I'm looping through the thumbnails, I don't want to be looping through thumbnails that I've already looped through. And so if I say have 10 thumbnails already, when I run this command again, it's going to give me those same 10 thumbnails, plus any more additional thumbnails that were loaded after I scrolled to the bottom of the screen. So what I will do is start looping only after the thumbnails that I've already added to the thumbnails list, or to the image URLs list. Hopefully that makes a bit of sense. I just don't want to be adding the same thumbnails multiple times. So we start at whatever the len of this is to make sure we avoid doing that. Then of course we only go up to the number of max images so that we're not adding more images than what we specified. Okay, so that's why we have that slice there. Now inside of here, I'm just going to do a try except, and inside of try, I'm going to say image.click. We're then going to wait by our delay. So we're going to say time.sleep, and we're going to sleep by whatever the delay is. Now I need to import time because I realize I don't have that. So let's go import time. You don't need to install this. This is a built-in module. Same with IO, as I'm sure you probably have realized by now. So we'll try to click on the image. We'll then sleep. Now we're just going to have an accept and say accept and then continue. Now the reason why I'm having this is because we could potentially get an error when we try to click on this image. So if that happens, we don't want to interrupt the whole script. So we'll just continue, which means go to the next item in the for loop. So now that we've clicked on the image though, we want to find that larger image and then get the source of that image and add it to our image URLs. So let's look at this now. So at this point, what we've done is, if this will load here, why is it so laggy? Come on, fix yourself. Okay, that's a bit better. Anyways, what's going to happen is we would have scrolled to the bottom of the screen, right? And then we would have clicked on some image, and this image now is loaded on the screen. So the screen looks like this. So if I go here and I click inspect, we can see that this is inside of a div. Now it's inside of the image tag. Sorry, Chrome's just lagging really hard here. But if I look at this image, I want to find a class name or something I can use to identify this specific image. And it turns out that if I go here and I look at the class names, we have a class which is equal to N3VNCB. Now, this is the only image on this page that has this class. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use that class to access this larger image and then add the source of that image. Okay, so let's do that. So I'm just going to paste this in here just so we have this. All right, so now what we will do is say that images is equal to, and then this is going to be wd.find_elements. We're going to do the same thing we did before. We're going to do by class_name in all capitals, and then we're just going to pass as a string this guy right here, which is the class name that we're looking for. Now, ideally, this should just give us one image, but it could potentially return multiple. And so what we're going to do is loop through all of the things that this returns, just in case something else does have the same class name as this. We're going to do some checks on all of these images, and we're going to see if they have a proper image source. If they do have a proper image source, then we will get that image source and add it to our image URLs. So I'm just going to say for img or for image in images like that. Then what I will do is I will check the attributes of this image and to see if it has a source tag. So I'm just going to say if image.get_attribute, and this will be src. Again, the source of the image that we're looking for. So if it does have that attribute, and we will say http, and this is going to just be http, is in image.getAttribute src, then rather than continuing, what we want to do is actually add this source to our, where is it, image URLs. So again, we're just checking if it actually has a source. If it doesn't have a source, then what's going to happen is this will return none and we'll just stop the if statement. If it does have a source, we'll make sure HTTP is in the image source. The reason we're doing that is to make sure that it's giving us a valid link that we can actually use to download the image. So now what I'm going to do is say that my image underscore URLs.add, and I'm just going to add the image.getAttribute, and then this is going to be src. After this, I will simply print that I found an image. So I'll print found image exclamation point like that. Great. So now what we've done is we've added that to our, where are we, image URLs. So now all we need to do at the very end of the program here is just say return image URLs. Now, of course, let me walk through this. Let me just zoom out a little bit so we can see this a bit better. Okay, so we start up here. We have our WebDriver, our delay, and the maximum number of images that we would like. We then write our scroll down function, which allows us to scroll down to the bottom of the screen. We have our URL. This is the target URL of the Google Images page that we want. For now, this has to be a Google Images page. If you wanted to change this to a different website, you just have to look for different class names to find the actual images that you want. We then are getting the WebDriver to go to this page. We're going to make our image URL set. This is going to store all of the URLs of images that we found. We're then going to say while the len of image URLs is less than max images, so while we haven't found as many images as we want, scroll to the bottom of the screen, find all of the thumbnails of the images by this class name. We then are going to loop through all of the images that we haven't currently looked at. We're going to try to click on them. We're going to give it a second to actually pop up the real image. Then what we will do is we will look for the real image in that kind of popped up window. So something that has this class name. We will then say for image and images. This could potentially return multiple images. So we want to look through all of these and find the valid image. Anyways, we're going to say if image.getAttribute src. So if it does have a source attribute on it and HTTP is in this attribute, that means this is a valid source for the image. So we are going to add that to our image URLs, print found image, and then finally, once we go through the while loop, we will return image URLs. So now all we need to do is actually combine these two functions together, and we should be able to download all of the images. So we could theoretically, inside of this function here, just put download image. And in fact, if we do this, we go download underscore image like this, then we can just pass the image URL that we found and we can download it. But instead, I'm going to do this outside of the function. I'm first going to call this one, get all of the URLs, and then I will loop through all the URLs and call the download image function. So we're going to say URLs is equal to this. And let's start by actually just printing this out and making sure this is giving us all of the valid URLs that we want. So I'm going to say print URLs. When I do this and I run the code, we can sit back and we should be able to watch Chrome go through here and do its thing. And of course, we get an error. What is the error? Scroll to end is not defined. Okay, I guess that's because I called this scroll down. So let's just fix this name here to scroll down. Okay, error 1 fixed. Let's try this now and let's see. Okay, so it's scrolling down. It then clicks on an image, clicks on another image. It should continue to click on images, and it's going to wait 2 seconds in between this. And I believe, how many max images did I put? I think I put 10 as the max, so it will do this 10 times. Of course, you can change the delay, and you can change how many images you want, and this will happen faster or slower depending on that. Okay, we should almost be through 10 here. Looks like we are almost good. And let's see here. Okay, maybe not. Okay, we clicked on another image. It seems like we're clicking on the same images here. So I'm going to let this run for a second and see what's going on, but we should be finished soon. Okay, so I was letting that run for a second and it seemed like it was never ending. So I'm just going to add a log here and just print found, and we'll do an F string just to see how many images we've currently found to determine kind of the progress level we're at here. So I'm going to go with found, and then let's go with the len of, and this will be image URLs, just to check why this is actually taking so long. And then what I'm going to do is change the delay here to 1, and let's just make it 5 images to see if this is going to work. So let's run the script now and see what we get. Okay, so we scroll down, click an image. I want to see my logs here. So found 1, found 2, found 3, found 4. And then it prints out all of the URLs. And okay, it looks like we were good on that. So let me change this to 10 now. And let's see if we can actually find 10 URLs. So let's run this now and see what we get. Let's move this over. Okay, so found 1, found 2, 3, 4, 5. And for some reason it is stalling. Okay, there we go. Found 6, found 7. I guess it just takes longer than I was expecting. Still only found 7. Okay. Found 7 again. How is it possible? Oh, I guess we're finding the same image multiple times. Okay, that would make sense. Found 7. Okay. So I think I see what's going on here. We keep clicking on the same image. So let me see if I can fix this, and I'll be right back. Okay, so we determined what the problem was is that we kept clicking on the same image. And since we kept clicking on the same image, what would happen is we would just be looping through the same image a bunch of times, and then we would return back to the same image. And well, this while loop is just going to go infinitely because we're on the same image. So it's actually really annoying to fix this problem. But what I'm going to do is implement something inside of here that pretty much says if we found the same image, then what we're going to do is increment whatever the len of image URLs is and max images so that we move on to the next image. So you'll see what I mean here, but I'm just going to put right here. I'm going to say if the image.get attribute is inside of image URLs. So if we already have this source in the image URLs, then all we're going to do here is we're just going to break out of this for loop. But first, we are going to say image URLs, and we're just going to add to this. Actually, I don't know if I can even add to this. Instead, we'll do this. We'll do max underscore images plus equals 1, and we're going to say skips plus equals 1. We're going to write a variable skips is equal to 0, and we're going to put the len of image URLs plus skips, and then in the while loop condition, same thing. The idea being here that if we're skipping by 1 or we're skipping by 2 images, then we'll account for that as we're looking for the next thumbnails and as we're doing the while loop condition, so we do actually end up getting the number of max images that we want. Hopefully that makes a little bit of sense, but this is kind of the quick fix, hopefully, for this. So let's run this now, and let's see if this works, because again, what was happening is we were just clicking on the same image a bunch of times, and well, that was not helpful. Okay, found 1, found 2, found 3, found 4, found 5. All right, let's see if we can find another one. Found 6, found 7. All right, give us a found 8 here. We keep alternating between the same image. What the heck? Okay. And now we've clicked into some completely different images, found 8, found 9, and there we go. Okay, I don't know exactly what happened there, but it looks like we ended up clicking on some weird image that brought up an entirely new page. I'm going to count that as a success for right now. Let's run this now. I'm just going to turn this down to 6. And what I'm going to do is use all of the URLs now and download all of them. So I'm just going to say 4, and we're going to say 4i, comma, and then URL in enumerate. We're going to enumerate over all the URLs. Then we will download them. We'll say download image. We're going to pass, what do we want? Download path URL file name. So this is going to be slash, this is going to be images slash. We then want the URL. And for the file name, I'm just going to go with the string of I plus .jpg. And this needs to be in a string. Okay, let me quickly explain this. So we are just looping through all of the different URLs that we have. We'll get the index of the URL as well as the actual URL itself. We're then going to say download image. We'll download to the images folder. That's why I'm doing images slash. Make sure you add the trailing slash here. Then I'm saying the URL is, well, this is the image I want to download. And then the name of this image is going to be string I plus JPEG, just so I have a unique name for every single one of these images. So let's run this now, and let's see if we can successfully download 6 images to our computer. You're going to note that it's going to find all of the URLs first. Then once it finds all of the URLs, it's going to download them one by one. Okay. We should, I guess it clicked on one of the top links, which is what we were trying to avoid. But regardless, we're still getting some cats here. So success, success, success. Now if I go to images, you can see that we have all of these images downloaded to the computer, starting at 0, going to 5. Okay. So I'm going to call this a success for now. Again, you probably have to tweak the script a little bit because what seems to be happening is it's clicking on images that we don't want it to click on. But I think I've showed you enough to be able to kind of mess with this and adjust it to whatever website you're working with. I'm not going to continue going through and trying to fix all the really tiny bugs. I just think this is probably good enough. And I will leave a link to this in the description if you want to download this code yourself and just go ahead and modify it. And again, a big shout out to that blog post I showed previously. The link will be in the description, but a lot of the code and the reason I was actually able to do this is because I followed along with a lot of the stuff that was inside of there. All right, so with that said, I am going to end the video here. I hope you found this helpful. If you did, make sure to leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and I will see you in another one.